Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Recycled Content, a podcast of the Association of Plastic Recyclers, an international nonprofit and the largest North American organization focused exclusively on improving recycling for plastics. I'm Kara Pochiro, and I'll be your host today. We were pleased to announce the winners of the second annual APR Recycling Leadership Awards during the 2026 Plastics Recycling Conference held in February. Nominations were accepted from across North America in 4 categories: Outstanding Leadership, Processor of the Year, Package Design Innovation, and Post-Consumer Recycled Content Utilization. These awards celebrate leaders who are unlocking the future of recycling, and we look forward to having them join us on the podcast in the next coming weeks. Today, we're talking with Kat Smith, Packaging Manager for Pizza Hut, which is the winner of the APR Recycling Leadership Award for Packaging Innovation. The redesigned Pizza Hut Wing Bowl, developed in partnership with Anchor Packaging, sets a new scalable benchmark for recyclable packaging in the quick service restaurant industry. Pizza Hut rolled out the new Wing Bowl nationwide in the United States, unlocking a new source of food-grade polypropylene. We'll get more into the details of that on today's episode. Kat leads packaging initiatives focused on sustainability, recyclability, and operational efficiency across a large, high-volume restaurant system. Her work includes advancing PFAS-free fiber packaging, redesigning packaging to align with the APR Design Guide for Plastics Recyclability, and implementing solutions that improve performance while reducing material use and cost. Welcome, Kat, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Kara. Thank you for chatting with me today.
Before we dive into the project, I'd love to hear about your path. Your LinkedIn bio says, scientist by training, engineer by experience, learner by default, sustainability by passion. I really liked that. You're a certified packaging professional, and you also mentioned that you're passionate about packaging sustainability, packaging end-of-life management, life cycle analysis, research and development, and product-package interactions. How did you get started in packaging, and when did sustainability become a passion for you?
I'm going to tackle the passion part first because I feel like it hard-coded into my DNA, if you will. And as far as I could remember, since I was a kid, I have always been fascinated with Mother Nature. And if you looked into my LinkedIn profile, you probably saw that I'm the type of person who stare into the universe and ask, why is she doing the thing that she does so effortlessly, yet so efficiently? I have always asked those kind of quirky questions and imagine how a giant sequoia tree can sustain on the same nutrients as a tiny little duckweed, and how a ginkgo tree that remains for over 200 million years and still thriving at the present days. Those things are so fascinating to me, and that's why I feel like I'm so passionate about nature and learning more about it. My actual journey into packaging career happened almost by accident. I had no idea what packaging was until my 3rd year in college. Originally, I enrolled with intention to become a geneticist. However, when it came to pick a technical elective, I caught a class that called Packaging Fundamentals, and I decided to take that mostly because it fit into my schedule. And for that, I owe a great deal to Professor R.J. Kathuria. He was the professor of that class, and with his teaching style, so encouraging and inspiring that it makes so much sense to me. And the more I talk to him about a class, about packaging, the more I realize that it's such a perfect plan between innovation and functionality. And it's make it feel so exciting and meaningful, and I would like to be a part of that exciting world.
Nice to have a mentor like that can help guide you to really what is the perfect path for you. Of course, we're glad that you chose this path and have been really involved at APR. It's been great having you. Sustainability in packaging can mean many things. What specifically led Pizza Hut to focus on recyclability as the priority for this project? And how did your partnership with Anchor Packaging help turn that idea into a solution that could really scale nationwide?
Yes. Sustainability, it could mean so many things, and those many things often are confusing as well. But at Yum Brands, for 2025 sustainability goal for packaging, we focused on shifting material, investing in recovery, whether it is compostable or recyclable. And my personal favorite is investing in circularity. So we choose recyclability because it is the most well-known end-of-life disposal to our consumer. And even though it is some people remain skeptical about the practice, people are familiar with it. And that's why we chose it as our priority. With that in mind, we brought a long grocery list to Anchor, and with their amazing collaborative spirit, together we figured out how to make a solution that wasn't just green on paper, but could actually scale across 6,000 locations nationally for us.
Right. I like that term, not just green on paper, because unfortunately, sometimes that does happen. People come up with these plans and it really isn't scalable or realistic. Now, let's get into some of those technical details and bring in more of your engineering in here. So a variety of packaging components can affect recyclability. This is something we talk about often on this podcast. And a few things needed to be changed in the previous wing bowl that Pizza Hut was using. This is what the APR design guide is all about. So the new wing bowl is a monomaterial polypropylene container, and it removes carbon black, which historically made containers difficult to sort and recycle. Can you explain what monomaterial design means, why removing that carbon black is so important for recyclability, and how challenging it was to find an alternative that still met the performance needs of the package?
That is a lot. It sounds like everything bowl of stew.
Yes, it does.
So let's break it down, shall we? In the simplest term, monomaterial means a package constructed from a single type of plastic rather than a complex mix of different type of plastic or a mix of different type of materials. So in our case, or in our bowl, if you will, this single type of plastic is polypropylene, and it makes it straightforward for the recycling stream, meaning after use, the guest can just toss it into the recycling bin, and doing so without having to remove this and that. And we don't need to have all of those mess up breakup before we move on with our life.
Yeah, very important that it's easy for the consumer to recycle. Whenever you add any kind of obstacle, any extra step, some people will just opt out.
Yeah, and so that's one part of it. The next thing is the carbon black. This is actually very interesting. So imagine a black hole. You can't see it, and it doesn't see anything. And in our bowl scenario, when it had carbon black, and it going through the optical sorting system, which use light to see what material it is, the carbon black absorbs all of that light. And so the machine basically doesn't think that it exists. It's an invisible bowl. We also learned that there are many different types of blacks, and one of which is the non-carbon black. This is the black pigment, but it still allowed the optical sorting to see the bowl. However, when we want to have a black bowl again, it is pretty expensive. And so as we are a franchisor system, we do our very best to help our franchisees safeguard their bottom line. And so we ask ourselves, if not black, what then? So while doing some research, I found a book by Connor Carlin, and I think he's pretty active in APR as well. But he has a book that's called Plastic Sustainability. Gray is the New Green. It piques my interest in which the book, he talked about the technical reason of why recycled plastic often have that gray shade and hue, if you will, and that embracing that gray is as the new green is actually steer us from a linear system of make, take, straight to waste to a more circular system. So we gave it a try. And once we make the decision to embrace that gray area, we started to test the prototype, some of the samples in our test kitchen, and we ran into a very pleasant surprise that our sauces, our wing sauces ranges from a very dark color of honey barbecue to a milky white color of garlic parmesan. But within that gray area, it's kind of shaded that mess, that fun but messy part of eating like juicy, saucy wings. And with that, we're just like, well, what are we waiting for? And we felt unstoppable and propelled the whole project to the finish line.
That's great. I'll have to check that out. Gray is the new green. I like that. Might have to campaign to just add that to the APR design guide. Gray is the new green, everybody. Beyond recyclable, this container also includes 10% post-consumer recycled content. Can you talk about the role recycled polypropylene played in the design and why incorporating PCR content is important for packaging like this?
Yes. So this part, it goes all the way back to my personal favorite of our sustainability goals, which is invest in the circularity. And we want to ensure that the material lifespan isn't just go straight from making it to landfill. We would like to use the material to recycle and reuse the material that we are putting into the market. And right now, 10% is our magic number. It is enough to move the needle to ensure and encourage people to start using recycled content without tipping the supply and demand balance that could negatively impact the pricing on recycled content. And the bottom line, our first step is to start building that supply chain that feeds into the system.
That's so important for brands to consider that type of thing when they're designing their packaging. They need to be reusing that material that they're putting in the system. And that reminds me of a tried and true Steve Alexander quote that I often use on the podcast and presentations. And he likes to say, consumer product companies must design their packaging so that they are their own material suppliers. So recyclers can use them to create a clean supply of recycled resin to put back into that packaging and other products. This redesign unlocks a new stream of food-grade polypropylene for recyclers. Was this intentional or simply another positive outcome of the new recyclable and recycled wing bowl?
I did not just set you up for that question, did I?
You didn't, but it was perfect.
But yes to all of the above, and 100% agree with Steve on that. We intentionally invest in the circularity of the material, and we think that the worst case scenario of any item, it shouldn't go straight to landfill, but it should be circulating in the system. And in our case, we would like to use that material to make more bowls. And we basically build our own safety net when we started to go into this path.
I like building your own safety net. That's what you're doing if you make something that's fully recyclable. And then you're also using that material again and putting it right back into your products.
Yep.
What were some of the biggest hurdles your team had to overcome during development, whether from a technical perspective, packaging performance, or even just making sure the solution worked in real-world restaurant operations?
Man, what hurdles didn't we meet? First off, we have been sourcing wings the way that we do for more than a decade. And so change is pretty scary in any situation. And we talk about decades, and so it's pretty scary. And for the most noticeable hurdle that we faced was designing for our backup house operator, and our operators are human. So human nature, if you think about it, we tend to do things the easiest way, the quickest way to take us over that finish line. And so when we design this bowl, we have to ask ourselves, how do we make this so intuitive and so easy to use that our team member want to use it and like to use it, rather than just like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to use this bowl or going to have to use this package. It's so hard to use. And that is our focus. Then the second thing is, again, if you are not familiar with the brand, we are a pizza company. And so when you think pizza, you think about a fiber box. So when exploring the options and making the decisions on plastic, we have to do our intensive learning and relearning of what we know, because we have to protect our brand image to make sure that we do the right thing the right way. So we did several end-of-life analysis for different scenarios to ensure that we are actually doing the thing that we intend to do. And we learned a ton from that. And one of which we learned that when plastic is used correctly, is actually more sustainable than fiber. And the key word is used correctly. And I'm so proud that we did our due diligence to protect and preserve our brand image.
So many things to consider when designing this type of packaging. And I'm glad you mentioned all those different details like functionality, user experience, sticking to your branding, all of those things. But it is possible to consider all of those things and still design for recyclability. And yours is a perfect story of that. Since launching the new Wing Bowl nationwide, what kind of feedback have you received from restaurant teams, customers, and anybody else in the industry?
Yeah. So to answer this question, let me take you to back of house for our operation. For whenever we launch a new thing, whether it is a new packaging or it is a new menu item, we did something called store test or DC test, and think about it like a pilot run or a trial run. And so during this store test, we have a compliment from a team member that I'm just like, wow, in which they said, how fast can they have this in their restaurant for real? And as a designer, you're just like, man, that is the best thing ever. That means that it works. It means that they like to use it, and it means that they can't wait to have it back in their restaurants. And that is so exciting. From an industry perspective, we won an award. So I'm not sure what else can be more positive than that.
Right. A great award from APR. That's great feedback to hear. I'm sure that feels very gratifying, not only helping the environment, you're designing for recyclability, you're using recycled content, but to get that positive feedback from team members who have to use it every day. So
yes,
that's great.
100%.
Now that the Wing Bowl has rolled out nationwide, what lessons from this project will influence future packaging innovation at Pizza Hut? And where do you see the biggest opportunities for more recyclable and recycled food service packaging in the years ahead?
Yes, like I mentioned, we learned so much and so many lessons, one of which I think that is, don't be afraid to ask the hard question. Don't be afraid to have the difficult conversations. Like we mentioned, sustainability can mean so many things because it is a complex topic. But let's talk about it instead of brush it away and hiding from it. The more we learn about it, the more we know of it. With what we learned today, could be different from 5 years ago. And so be able to learn and relearn is a really valuable lesson that I found. The other lesson that I personally really very treasure is that don't be afraid to push the envelope. We have the long list of grocery. We have, it seems like, endless of needs and wants, and it was huge, but we keep asking ourselves, what if? We keep asking, how about? We keep pushing, and we worked with a wonderful partner like Anchor Packaging. We actually make a unicorn ourselves. And so really keep pushing, keep asking the question, go out there because your unicorn is waiting to be made by you. I'll say that.
Yes. And just like you said earlier, so change is hard and you have to push forward. You have to push the envelope, have those hard conversations to make things happen.
Yes.
Finally, to wrap up today, these are some great lessons that you've learned, what people can do going forward. What other advice do you have for other brands in food service looking to make the case for sustainable packaging design changes?
My message to other brands is pretty simple. Join us. We love you to join us in designing for recyclability. We want to use that material, and the more we integrate these material into our supply chains, the more we can collectively strengthen the circularity and strengthen the supply and demand and be a better steward to the planet while we're at it. My other piece of advice is ask for help. When we think about something new and something disruptive, we tend to ask ourselves, oh, I don't know if I should bring it up. So you don't know until you ask. So just ask questions and work together, push the limit and find the answer, or at least attempt to find the answer to that question. The biggest message or the biggest thing that I want to share is this complex, huge project like this. It requires a whole village, from marketing to operation to our supply chain to our suppliers. And with all of those help, we could make this happen. In the spirit of collaborative, I would like to thank Alicia Berry, Yum Sustainability Director, Susan Miles, Yum Packaging Sustainability Lead, Kelly Alvarado, Anchor Sustainability Director, and Kathy Jocelyn, Anchor Cell Director. All of these amazing women give me the encourage to be my authentic self and speak my mind and continue to push this project forward. I also would like to shout out to my husband. Thank you for listening to all of my rambling, my frustrations, and overly excited about packaging and packaging sustainability. Thank you. And I cannot do what I do without you. And of course, you, Kara, thank you for having me and chatting with me today.
Thank you so much for joining us. I love that message to end on. It takes a village. Join us. Collaboration is key. These are always things that we're talking about on the podcast. So thanks so much, Kat. And thanks to everyone for listening. For more information about the APR Recycling Leadership Awards, the APR Design Guide, and much more, visit the APR website at plasticsrecycling.org. Check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, and X at APR Recycles. And you can find recycled content wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, rate, and review.
This podcast was recorded in the studios of
Policy Resolution Group, Washington, D.C.